Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn, and we are continuing our conversation with Greg Napier. Greg is an attorney by trade and works with a lot of families. But yesterday we started our program talking with him how he struggled some with addiction when he was a teenager, and that marijuana was his drug of choice. But fortunately, his parents early on recognized some signs and got him into a faith-based recovery program, and he was able to conquer that addiction. And so that's where we started yesterday. If you missed that one, I encourage you to go to our website, hopeishere.today. Our programs are about 14 minutes long, so you can catch up with us real quickly, or if you want to share it with somebody that maybe is struggling with that. But Greg, let's talk a little bit about the process with the recovery. You go to the recovery program, and it was for marijuana. How did they help you with, the addiction to marijuana?
Right. So for me, it was marijuana. There was a broad range of people there, from hardcore, like I talked about the other day or yesterday, stage 4 addicts, and then stage 1 and all in between. And they really focused on separating us out from our environment, getting us away from our friends, getting us away from our habits, getting us away from all those triggers in our environment that brought up that desire and the ability to use. And it was quite long, it was quite intense. So we started out in foster homes. We'd spend the day at a facility. There's a lot of peer interaction, pretty much a tough love approach with a lot of confrontation and trying to get you to admit what your issues were and face them. And that for me, that part of it lasted really quite a few months, because even though my actual drug use was far less than, say, somebody who came close to death with cocaine or something like that, it was more about my attitude. It was more about my resistance to dealing with anything else that took me so long. And then once we got through that, I was able to progress. I was able to return home. I returned to my home with my parents and began to make amends, apologizing, not just apologizing, but making up for all those things. So in terms of drug use, I was what they would have called a lightweight in that program. So
I understand. Well, I'm glad you didn't become a heavyweight with that program. Yeah. And yet, the interesting question I would ask you, because obviously you were talking many years ago when this happened for you, but it's kind of interesting. You went in for struggling with marijuana, and yet here we are today in this culture where states have actually legalized marijuana. What is your thoughts on that as far as with marijuana? I mean, it obviously can cause addiction, yet here in our culture now we got states in our country that are legalizing it.
Right. Well, I've talked to people, and there's this wide spectrum even among treatment providers, and some treatment providers are like, marijuana is no big deal. Why are you concerned about it? And they keep promising to send me research showing that it's no big deal. I have yet to receive any of that. But then I talk to other providers, and they're like, well, no, actually, that whole gateway drug idea has some validity, although that's not popular anymore to talk about or think about marijuana as an entry ramp into drug abuse. But the thing is, as much as today's society wants to say marijuana is no big deal, well, I'll give you an example. I do court-appointed work for parents and as a guardian ad litem for children in neglect and abuse actions. And I'd say 95 plus of those situations that come before the court where I'm representing one party or another involve drugs. And I have seen time and time again that the people who are chronic marijuana users, and that's the predominant problem, they seem to struggle more. And they seem to struggle more, in my mind, because their perceptions and their thinking are just really distorted. And so I talked to a physician a little while back, a few weeks ago, who was doing a presentation on opioids, and I asked him that question, why is that? And he agreed, and said, yeah, the chemical action of marijuana does do those things. And in fact, there's some research from the National Center for Health Research that shows that short-term effects include problems with problem solving, distorted perception, memory loss, motor skills, and all that. So in my view, at least for me and for many people, marijuana is problematic, especially when we start talking about making it legal recreationally. That sends a message to teens. There's another research thing that I came across that shows that a teenager who tries marijuana before the age of 15 are actually 4 times more likely to develop a substance abuse problem as an adult. So, there's research out there, and I've yet to see the other research, even though people keep promising to send it to me.
Well, I appreciate you sharing on that, and the great thing is that there is information, like you said, that if you want to look at it, unfortunately, people sometimes don't want to look and see that, but you listen to that, and I've seen some of that research myself, so I don't think it's fair to say that, marijuana is a safe drug, and yet, our country, a lot of places are starting to say that is that, and yet I've had friends that have really struggled with it and have lost jobs and, are not productive members, and people that really struggled in high school with it and still to this day. So I appreciate your thoughts on that. What, as you looked at treatment, obviously you had a successful treatment. So what led you to want to help people with treatment? Talk to us about that process.
Sure. Well, I experienced some healing. I experienced some joy and peace in my life that had nothing to do with substance use. And I wanted other people to be able to experience that. It's kind of like when we want to share the good news about Jesus. We encounter Jesus, we encounter this relationship with Jesus, and we want other people to do that as well. It's not like, hey, you have to do this because it's the right thing. It's, this brought joy to me. This brought healing to my life. And so, severing that unhealthy relationship, and I've used that term now yesterday and again today. I want to flesh that out a little bit. When I talk about an unhealthy relationship or with drugs or chemicals, it really comes down to this idea that I spoke about yesterday, where we start believing that a substance, a chemical, and you mentioned, pornography and other addictions, we really start believing that thing is what's going to fulfill us. And so we actually begin a relationship with that thing where we think about it, we foster our time with it, and we start using it more and more to get that fulfillment, when that fulfillment's really meant to come from a relationship with Christ. So that's one of the ways, even what they refer to as safe marijuana use, again, which I strongly disagree with, that thing stands in the way of God, because that's what you start turning to get that fulfillment.
Yeah, I heard somebody say one time that an addiction is a substitute for God.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I hear you saying. And yet, John 10:10 says the thief comes to steal and to kill and destroy. And yet I love that Jesus in the very next breath said, but I have come so that you may have life and have it abundantly, and not necessarily financially, but just that you will have peace and be able to deal with this life. And be able to have joy in spite of circumstances. Yet I see addiction not just to narcotics, but as you were sharing there, with pornography or even food. People can do that, alcohol, whatever. So many different things that it's usually it's a slow thing. It's not overnight, and nobody intends for it to happen. Yet it is reality. So just to rewind just a little bit from yesterday, I mean, the earlier that you can deal with a situation, the higher chance of being able to have a successful recovery.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's 100% right. And that's why I struggle a little bit when we refer to addicts, and we tend to like to get people with a really dramatic story, more dramatic than mine, to talk, and because it focuses us on that tail end and treatment for that tail end, which is essential. But if we can intervene, especially with teens and youth, if we can intervene early and in a strong way, then we never get to that stage 2. We never get to that stage 3 where your body is really starting to be effective, and then you not only have to deal with the mood and the psychology and the spirituality aspects of the addictive process. If you wait, then you're dealing with the body and the craving and all that as well, and it just complicates it. It makes it harder and harder, and that's why we see people struggle so much, especially in this society where our society really promotes the idea that we need to get rid of all pain in our life. We need to take a pill to get rid of pain. Doctors feel pressured to treat pain. It's a standard thing to give opioids for certain procedures, and they're not always necessary. My daughter had her wisdom teeth out, and they prescribed her opioids, and she just didn't take them. She just took Tylenol and was fine. Now, that's not true for everybody, but to automatically go to pain relief as the primary thing sends a message that I think is unhealthy in our society.
Well, that is a great point. We do try to avoid pain as much as we can, and yet I heard Wayne Smith one time say, the founding pastor of Southland Christian, who passed away a couple years ago, but said, God only had one son without sin, but no son without sorrow.
Yeah.
And you could say, one daughter or two without sin, or one daughter without sorrow. But I think the point being is that, unfortunately, in this life, we're going to have pain, and yet, like you said, for doctors, our culture, drink, have a drink, take the edge off, or take some type of prescription, and yet God's got a better way for us. And unfortunately, addiction can really destroy people in so many, many ways. And I just want to, we have people listening all over the country to this program, and I hope what you've heard Greg Napier say. He is an attorney now by trade, but unfortunately we didn't get to his time, and we'll get to that tomorrow, I promise. That's my fault. But he did serve some time as a substance abuse counselor, just trying to help people overcome struggles with addiction like he did. He was fortunate he didn't get to like a stage 4, as we said, but there's some of you right now that you've got a struggle. It could be with shopping, it could be with pornography, it could be alcohol, it may not be narcotics necessarily, but that you're already getting ready to cross that fine line. And I just want to encourage you today. I think God sends a lot of times warning signs to us, angels to speak to us, and I want to challenge you. I'll beg you, whichever way you respond. Some people respond to being challenged, some just need to be begged to reach out to someone else, because as soon as you get what's done in the darkness to light, healing can begin. And trust me, the further you go with whatever this problem is that you've got, then it's going to get worse and out of control. So reach out today. Listen to what Greg said, that early intervention is the best no matter what type of addiction it is. Well, tune in tomorrow. We are actually going to talk about some of the things he learned when he was a substance abuse counselor, and we'll talk about that and much more with Greg Napier. I'm Greg Horn. We'll see you tomorrow on Hope is Here.
CMI is your full-service human resources provider in Central Kentucky. For 15 years, CMI Human Resources has taken great pride in helping organizations and people work. Whether it's employee handbooks or help in filling a position, no job is too large or too small for CMI. Contact the professionals today at CMI Human Resources, 859-296-2800, or online at cmiconsulting.com.